God? In one word. Okay, I'll make it a little easier for you. What is separation from God? Exactly. So separation from God is hell, right? So what is life without God? Is hell. So that's a topic for today. A life without God is hell. So let's look at the Bible and see what the Bible has to tell us about life. If you look at James 4:14, it says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. And then in Psalms 144:4, what does the Bible tell us about life? It says, man is like a breath. His days are like a fleeting shadow. So you can see how the Bible is regarding life as a breath. And today here, tomorrow vanishes. So that is what the Bible is telling us about life. But who can explain best about life? Would you prefer standing here to tell you about life? Would you prefer me standing here, or would you prefer Oprah? So according to human judgment and according to our worldly understanding, we would prefer someone who is successful in life to be telling us what is life, right? Because we determine a person's success by the wealth they accumulate. So who can best tell us about life? A person who has everything. Like, would you listen to a person who has only knowledge and wisdom? Or would you prefer to listen to a person with knowledge, wisdom, riches, and who has everything in life? Right, everybody would want to prefer, a person who has everything, read it in life. And that one such person is in the Bible. Can anyone guess his name? He had everything. He had wealth that no other king or anyone was given and would have. And he had all the knowledge and the wisdom possible, all the pleasures in the world, and so much so, the kingdoms and kings envied this certain character. So anyone knows his name? Very good. Give a hand for Neil. That's good, Neil. He was King Solomon. It says in 2 Chronicles 1:9, I will also give you wealth and honor, possessions and honor, such no king who was before you ever had, and none after you will have. And yet, when we look at Solomon's life, what did Solomon say in the end? He wrote it in a book. What book is that? He wrote about this life. He says, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Possessions, wealth, knowledge, meaningless. He says in Ecclesiastes that all this life, why is it meaningless? He said that God has created this void in our hearts, which is eternity. He goes on to say that if you do not fear Him and keep His commandments, he says, all this knowledge, pleasure, wisdom, riches, material, everything is meaningless. We have to keep our hopes not on wealth and all these kind of possessions, but our hope has to be on the Lord. What does he say in Proverbs 9:10? That the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Look at what the Bible has to say about this wealth, about money. The Bible tells us in Matthew 6:24 that we can never serve two masters, because one master is God and the other master is money. So what are we? If we have this dog eat dog attitude in our country and everywhere in this world, right? Everyone wants to accumulate as much wealth. Everyone is in this race. See, where is my race? There are only two directions. If I'm not running this race to God, I am running it towards money. Because that's what he said so clearly. He says that you cannot serve two masters. Either you will love one and despise the other. Right? So, can we say that the root of all evil is money? Okay, if you're saying yes, then you got to give me all your money. If anyone is saying yes. So obviously it is no, because it's not wrong to have money, right? It's not wrong to be wealthy, right? It's not wrong because it says in 1 Timothy 6:10. If you want to open your Bibles. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It's not saying that it's the root of all evil, but it's saying it's all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and have pierced themselves with many pangs. So you see what's happening here, right? That if you're in this race for money, then it's going to cause you like severe pangs. It says pierce you with pangs because your mind is in all the time on money. So while money can sustain you, but because of your greed, it can also cause you to, to fall and to have this horrible life. But if we look at, say for example, if we are in this race for billionaires, can we say that all billionaires are happy? We know that there are some who are happy, some who even try to commit suicide. For example, who can name this first billionaire? And you're going to think who this is and tell me his name. This billionaire, he was the first billionaire, that's one clue. And then he says, I can think of nothing less pleasurable than a life devoted to pleasure. He had all the money in the world. He had so much of money, but yet he said that there was something more to it, something more than money. The satisfaction is somewhere else, not in all the wealth in the world. He could have bought everything he wanted for his pleasure and entertainment, but he said no. Satisfaction lies somewhere else. Who you think this billionaire is? He was John Rockefeller. To everyone that his money came from God. So that's where we place our hope. You see, we place our hope on God. He says in 1 Timothy 6:17, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, not to put their hope on wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Can you imagine that beautiful news that even if you're a billionaire, that you could, you can place your hope on God, because there are some millionaires who have tried to commit suicide, and have committed suicide. I don't know if any of you are familiar with any of the millionaires who committed suicide, like the founder of Kodak, George Eastman. He earned a lot of trophies. He did a lot of noble stuff. But yet, what he did was shot his heart. Frustrated. He's a millionaire. Why should he do that? So we should stop thinking that money is everything, because people can commit suicide also. So this just goes to tell us that it's not, it's not what we are thinking. It's not that if we become a millionaire, we'll be fine. We have everything that we wanted. No. The whole message shows you that we should not put our faith in wealth and our hope in wealth, but put our hope in God. It says there very clearly. So, now, why do you think these millionaires would have ended up in such horrible deaths? Listen to Ecclesiastes 1. God gives some people wealth, possessions and honor so that they lack nothing their hearts desire, but God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers will enjoy them instead. See, when our hope is not placed on the Lord, this is what's going to happen. In the world, God will grant them all this. So this clearly goes to show that in Matthew 5:45, He causes His sun to shine on evil and good, and sends rain on righteous and unrighteous. But God does not grant them the ability to enjoy just because God was money, they were running after money. So it's pretty clear that we should place our hope only on God. Okay? So life without God is hell. So now I dealt with life, discussed it fully. You came to know about the person who had everything, and you came to know how he felt about life, that without God, his life was meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. All his riches, all his pleasures, he had so many wives and all the entertainment in the world, but still he said meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Now we come to the next part of it, which is God. Okay, a life without God. So, who thinks God is imaginary? I don't think anyone, except for the kids. To know Him first, and then believe in Him, and He says, that's it. Just come to know Him. That's why His Bible is there. Just believe in Him. That's the experiment. That's all we need to know. No need of taking all these facts and figures and all that. So, to come to know God, very simple. Just go to His Word, come to know who He is, and believe, and then see what happens. That's like an experiment, for people who want to find God, who want to know who He is. So, He wants to bless us. All He wants us to know is like, come to know who He is, and just believe in Him, and that's it. Then He'll take it from there. He will start grooming you and molding you, and you will never have any doubt of His existence. Okay. So now comes to the next discussion. I finished a life without God is hell was the topic. I finished with life. I finished with God. Now comes to hell. What is hell? Does it really exist? What does the Bible tells us? Bible tells us. Can you tell me one word, like what comes to your mind when you think about hell? Fire, right? It's a fire, lake of fire. It's a bottomless pit, an abyss. You think about death and its destruction, everlasting torment, a place of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and of punishment, a place of punishment. So, without God, that is man's destiny. Like, would we want a life like this? I don't think so, right? No one is ready for this horrible place where there's torment and gnashing of teeth and eternal damnation. No one wants that kind of life. Naturally, how hell is, like, to feel it. I just need 2 volunteers for that. I'll need Bala come to my right, Vijay come to my left. I need to sorry, I have to disturb you guys, but we're going to have a small drama here. The rich man and Lazarus. So, let me read to you, this is from Luke 16:19. You like the drama? The Lord chose to say its seriousness in Matthew 5:29. He says, if your right eye causes you to sin, or if your hand or leg, any part of your body causes you to sin, cut it off. Better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown in hell. 2 Corinthians 4:3. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. The God of this age has blinded their minds. Can you? And He also says in Matthew 4:4 that man does not live by bread alone. So only by eating and feeding our physical bodies. But we live by His word, which is spiritual, which we feed our spirit with His word. So it's only the fool that says in his heart, there is no God. So let me end it with this saying that I would rather live my life believing there is a God and die to find out there isn't, than to live my life believing that there isn't and then die to find out there is.